And you're golden. Go, go, go.
All right, we are back in Atlanta with Larry. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I really want to just jump right into the interview and introduce people to you. I remember when I first noticed you. I was living in Pittsburgh, and I was on YouTube and I was scrolling. At the time, I might have been engaged or something. I don't know. And I was just looking for, wedding material. And this awesome video, I was at work and literally broke down into tears while at work watching this video. So just kind of like tell us about that, like in 2013, how was that, the experience, the video?
So it's, for those who don't know, he's referring to my wedding video. So in 2013, my husband and I got married. And we taped it. It wasn't like planned to be released. It was just like we had it recorded and took pictures just like everybody does for their wedding. And then my mom kind of was like, well, you need to put it on YouTube. You need to share it just so people can see, to kind of give people an opportunity to see what's possible. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not saying that it, not just being, because we existed in a space where we were safe to do that, you know? And that's kind of why we did it.
So after the wedding, because it was a very beautiful wedding, you took a trip somewhere
We
to
did.
another city now called home. What was like behind it?
So that, our wedding day was 11/11, because that's when I proposed, and we have numerical meaning behind it or whatever. So it wasn't legal here in Georgia, so we had to fly to DC because it was legal in DC.
Mm-hmm.
So with us flying to DC the next day, it was 11/12/13. So after we got married, when we were coming out, the DC local news happened to be there because it was the date 11/12/13, and they were saying people were getting married because of that date. So they happened to interview us there too. So
That was really nice.
it was coincidental.
So do you feel like after that video you kind of had like pressure on you from the community? Because for one, you two were, there was a couple other videos that dropped, but you two were like really out there. Do you feel like it was pressure that you now had to uphold from the community, like to obtain something?
I don't know if it was pressure. I'm just a very driven person anyway. So I don't feel like I felt any pressure from the community. I've always been a proponent of dispelling myths. And this was something that people felt like, especially as black men, that we don't need it. Like I heard a lot of chatter about, marriage equality is for white people. And it's like not understanding in our community what marriage equality means, because there's like 5,000 fiscal attachments to marriage equality that you don't realize that come along with it. So those things are important, and I felt like that was important for our community also.
So you do a show. Right after that, and now I'm paying attention. Like you got my attention. Like okay, and this show comes out, Boys Next Door. Just tell us tell us about it. How did that start? What made you and your friends do the show? Was it reality?
Actually, yes, it was reality. So Henderson Maddox. We had worked together on some things before. We had met before I got married, and then he saw the wedding video, and he approached and was like, "Do a show, Mr. and Mr. Carter, or whatever," because he was like to give people a little bit or more of us as a couple. And my husband was like, "No, he's a super private person."
I've noticed. You see stuff now, you don't really see him in it.
He's a super private person, and I think. And that was a part of our growth in our relationship, is like acknowledging and celebrating him for who he is, and not trying to force him to be like me, because like I am a driven person and I do many projects. He doesn't have to be a part of every project that I do, because that's just not who he is. So I have to honor who he is as his husband first, So he wasn't interested. So I told Henderson, I was like, well, I have an idea, again, dispelling the myths. I don't have anything against the people who are being shown in the media, but I felt like at that time, I didn't see myself represented as a gay man in the media. So that's where the title came from. I was like, boys next door, just like anybody else that might live next to you. We're just regular people.
Right.
And that was the idea, and it was reality, and
it was a good show. It was a really good show. Because anytime I got a little notification on YouTube, I didn't care what I was doing. I was like, let me watch the episode and get caught up on it. And so let's kind of deep through the show a little bit. So your friend Mo, and then Mr. Manish, KJ. Okay, makes sense. So like, are y'all? I know I've seen you and KJ around. Are y'all all still close or?
So that is a very tricky situation. I can speak for myself, and KJ is one of my best friends. So we spend time together. As you said, you've seen, we still spend a lot of time together. He lives in LA now. And I have talked to Mo recently. And so like we've been working and building our relationship back.
So with the show, will there be any new possible? I know you got a lot of things going on, but everybody, I'm sure this is not the first time somebody's asking you, is the show gonna come back, possibly come back, something similar, a remake?
I don't know, only time will tell. I mean, you know, anything is possible.
Yeah. Okay. I just had to poke around a little bit. Let's talk about music. Philly.
Yes.
Let's see. When did you start? When did you get into music?
When did I get into music? I've always really been like intrigued by music. Even since I was young, my grandfather was a preacher, so like in church, that was always like an interest to me. Is the music. That was my favorite part of church. Was the music, and as I grew older. Really a turning point for me as far as like artistry was like when Aaliyah came out like in the 90s, and like I was like in love with her. I was like, she's amazing, and that kind of shifted my thinking of what was possible.
You kind of answer my next question. Who was one of the artists that most influenced you outside of Aaliyah?
I would say that would be hard. Like Sam Cooke and Marvin Gaye. My uncles and my father listened to a lot of Sam Cooke, Marvin Gaye. So the thing about Sam Cooke is he was like one of the first African American artists to own their own publishing. So he was a writer at that time. Like African American artists were writing and their companies were taking their publishing. So he was like, no, that's not happening with me. And Marvin Gaye, he was a very woke artist. You listen to his music now and think about the time that he was living in, and like that was dangerous for a black man to be singing about those things for both of them, really. So that was really inspiring for me.
If you could work with like an artist today that's out, who or write for them or anyone, who would it be?
I think Timbaland and Missy. I grew up in VA, and I always thought like they take a lot of risks in music, and I think that's what makes their music magical, is because the risks they take is like right on the cutting edge, and that's what pushes music forward.
Wow. So do you write all of your music?
Yes.
And you've written for others?
I have written for others.
Wow. How did you get, it's one thing to be singing, but how did you get into the writing aspect?
I think just people, working with different people, being in different spaces, like creativity, like being in the studio with somebody who's recording and they just are like, well, what do you think? Well, what do you hear? And then you kind of start like, oh, this is what I hear, and it kind of can build and grow from there. So just kind of like a jam session.
So, I was listening to music on my way to Atlanta, all of the music, and I wanted to question you about some of your lyrics. So we'll play a little game. You just kind of tell me what you want. The first lyric is, and I want to make sure, if love is a two-way street, what do you do when you find yourself on a one-way?
Yes. So that was Two-Way Street. I wrote that song. I was in a relationship that I felt like I just didn't know. You know, when you're in those relationships and you are just like, I'm feeling you, but I just don't feel the same. Like that reciprocal type of energy is not there.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it felt like. And it's like I'm doing all of these things. I'm showing you I love you. I'm showing I care. And I don't know if you get it, you know? So it's kind of like, you supposed to be on a two-way street, cars going both ways, but I'm only traveling in one direction.
So what do you do? Do you exit? Do you take the nearest?
I make a left. And if you're still on the one way, make another left. And then make a right.
Oh, Sheila. What type of girl is Sheila?
So Oh Sheila was actually a remake from Ready for the World.
Mm-hmm.
So they were out in the early 80s,
Right.
I think. Yeah, the early 80s. So that was a song that I just liked. So I felt like I wanted to do my own little spin to it.
Okay. Sheila can be anybody.
Sheila can be anybody, that person that is playing you, because basically Sheila is a player.
Okay. Okay. So, Love, Sex, and Marriage, the song,
Mm-hmm.
is now. So tell me about the song.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the project that is on is Mr. Carter.
Mm-hmm.
So that was me releasing Philly,
Mm-hmm.
totally, like kind of being more in your face. Cause there's a part of me, like I'm a shy person,
Mm-hmm.
but creatively I go different places and I like live vicariously through my art.
Right.
So like Love, Sex, and Marriage was like explaining to people like, yo, I did it, because people were like, oh, you married? Oh, like, well, what is that like? You know, like people have different things to say. And it's like, yep, I put a ring on him. Yep, I settled down for him. We good?
Okay, so it's the theme song of the new show you're on.
It is.
So tell us about
And oh, you got the shirt on. Look at that. Look at God.
Yeah. Catch the shirt, Love, Sex, and Marriage.
Subscribe YouTube at Trey Online 21.
Yeah. So tell me, I watched a little bit of the show. Tell us about the show. How did it start? Are you one of the writers?
So no, I don't actually write. Trey is the writer for the show, and it is based around 4 college friends who are all totally different. You know, different characters, and I play Darren, the love interest of Ken, one of the main characters, and we have an interesting relationship. Like we have a long-term relationship, and we're just going through the motions and the antics that come up with him being friends with different people.
So you're the lead character.
Well, I call myself a supporting character. I mean, I'm.
Oh, everybody has equal.
Yeah, I try to
Watch the show.
Yeah, watch it and see what you think.
So I wanted to go back and ask you about a song that I forgot.
Okay.
To talk about I Love Him.
Mm-hmm.
That was what 2014, 2015?
Mm-hmm. 2014, 2015. Yeah.
Where did that song come from? What inspired you to write that song and sing it?
Well, I had that track for maybe like 3 years, and I was just like, I want to do a song of this. I want to do a song of this, but it didn't fit with Becoming, the project.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just didn't fit in, and I wrote it for my husband. It was just like just to incorporate him into my music, because on The Boys Next Door there was a conversation that we had, that's the reality part of it. We had a conversation because he always felt like I should integrate my real life into my music instead of like being ambiguous or talking around it.
Right.
Kind of really just like being bold and blunt about who I am and what I was doing. So that's kind of where I Love Him came from, and it was just like, listen, this is it. And I heard a poem by Tony DaCosta, and I was just like, this has got to be a part of it, where he's like writing a letter to his mother explaining like, I don't want to disappoint you, I hate to see you hurt, but can I have your permission to love him? Can I have your permission to comfort him in his times when he gets a little bit low? And to me, that's what it really embodied. It's like, it's about love, because people focus on the sexual part of homosexuality,
Right.
and they forget about the love piece.
And so people can find all your music on
iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Tidal, wherever you buy music, you can find my music, PHYLLE.
And like, if anyone wants to like book you or work with you, maybe you write for them. They can find you.
They can email phillythe1@gmail.com.
Got you. So, is there anything else you're working on? And I know you got your hands full, like any other projects.
Yes, we are currently working on turning Love, Sex, and Marriage, the show, into a stage play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically going to be a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to show how Ken and Darren actually got together. You know, so the show kind of picks up, they've been together a year, and that's kind of where it starts.
Right.
But it's going like to the beginning, to a year ago, and just showing the dynamic and how it happened and what sacrifices were made for the relationship.
And so when does the play come out? Or when?
That is gonna be good. Thank you for asking. That's gonna be not Memorial, Labor Day weekend here at 7. Geez, I can't think of the.
But that's during Pride.
It's during Pride, and
Okay.
it was purposely during Pride to give people something to do during the day, like incorporating the arts into Pride. Because what happens, a lot of people come to party during Pride, but like the origin of Pride was like to come and learn and culture and everything else. And other races do still have that, and our Black Gay Pride has different things. They have like workshops. I know the Gentlemen's Foundation has different workshops and different things during that time. So there's other things to do besides the club. So like during the day, you can kind of do all of these things, and then you can hit the club and party at night.
So before closing, and I know this is something I should have asked earlier, but trying to do it. You have met the mark where a lot of us want to be. You're married. You are successful in your own right. But more so on the marriage piece. A lot of people are running around trying to figure out, like, am I with the right person? How do I get to that point? Just kind of give us some tips, some pointers. Once you got married, was it what you expected it to be? What changed? Just throw a little bit of...
I don't know if I can really give tips and pointers, because I think relationships are very personal things.
Right.
And I feel like that's something special, a special bond between two people.
Mm-hmm.
So my relationship doesn't necessarily look like your relationship that looks like your relationship. You have to find out what really makes the two of you happy, and who the two of you are, and click. And I do want to say this though, I think, how can I say this? Like the mental piece of long-term